Very good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this interesting session. We have an interesting panel here, as been introduced. Before we just open discussion, I just wanted to cite a few of the observations that a report that Havas Media has been publishing for the last 9 years. It's across certain 9 markets, and in India we cover about 50 brands. And what it interestingly states is that the consumers are expecting more from each brand, and they want brands to go beyond just the functional experiences that brand are giving to the consumer. They would want it to be more emotional. They would want it to be more personalized. Globally, staggering 59% of people who responded to this report suggested that if one single bad experience would make them move away from the brand. That's a very big number if you look at it, and that goes to show that the functional experiences is the table stake now. Yeah? You had to go beyond, you had to look at personalization, you had to connect with them at an emotional level. And some of these benefits is where brands are able to do it exceptionally well, is they are able to command about 15% revenue lift, and also they are able to command a higher price from the customers, which are 16% higher price they are able to get from customers for the services they're providing. Some of those things are validating that how critical is customer experience or customer centricity is for brands in today's age. And we have this distinguished panel of CMOs. They work in different categories, but they have very demanding jobs cut out for them also. Yeah? How do they bring this customer centricity for their business, and how do they grow it? So we will start the discussion with asking maybe Ruchika first to you about how are you planning on designing a customer-centric approach for your business in 2025?
Thank you so much, Ashok, and hello everybody. Great pleasure to be here. So I belong to the general insurance industry, and when I really look at customer experience, I think it can be boiled down to 3 basic pillars. One is the proposition that you offer the customer. The second is the service that you offer the customer. And the third, especially true for our industry, is what happens at the time of usage of product. In our industry, that basically means the claims experience. So how do you articulate the claims experience for the customer? And we have done a lot of work around all 3 pillars. They are the mainstay of our customer approach. When you look at propositions, we divide our customers into various segments. We do a lot of work around customer insight mining. And using those insights, we develop products and propositions which really don't exist in the market today. So for example, GCI has a dog insurance product, which was unheard of. And this insight we got during COVID, because the adoption of dogs actually doubled during that time. And we realized there's an opportunity there. And we said, just the way you cover health insurance for your family, your dog is also your family. Ask any pet parent. And therefore, here was an opportunity for us, and that did extremely well. Similarly, we have a product for women. Surprisingly, there is no comprehensive health insurance for women out there. So these are just some examples. Similarly, from a customer service perspective, we believe in providing the power in the hands of the customer. Customers can reach out to us, of course, through the call center, but they can also reach out to us on WhatsApp, through our app, through our website. All channels are available, and we make sure that the experience is omni-channel, right? Regardless of how they reach out to us, they get the answer that they need really quickly, really efficiently, with the lowest stat which is possible. And finally, the claims experience. And here, it's a mix of what we do in terms of technology, but also what we do in terms of human touch. Because at the end of the day, we do realize that when somebody is claiming a product, they are in trouble. There's either been an accident or a loved one is in hospital, and there is an emotional sense, an emotional time for the customer. And therefore we approach it with a lot of human touch and hold our customer's hand right throughout the journey. We make sure we don't do underwriting at the time of claims. If you've got a policy from us, we will pay your claim. And that, at the end of the day, builds trust. We have the highest claim settlement ratio in the industry. We have the lowest complaint ratio in the industry. And I think when you deliver to your promise, you build the trust. And that is really customer centricity for us.
Just great thoughts. Thank you, Ruchika. Samir, if you want to come in and sort of share your views too.
Yeah, thanks Ashok, and thanks Adgully team for having me here. So I'm from FINIXX. FINIXX is India's first listed discount broker, so we've been around for a while. One thing I wanted to bring out is that when it comes to our segment, which is stockbroking, right? If a user has a bad experience, or if there's anything that goes wrong, usually they lose money, right? Now, when you compare that to, let's say, you going for a movie to PVR, if you have a bad experience, you will lose. I mean, that experience would have been bad. You would have had a bad time, but you don't necessarily, have a monetary loss. Whereas in our case, there are two types of losses. One is if the product is screwed up, they were trying to sell, it's not sold, they will have an actual loss. And a lot of other times it is, they did not want to sell, or they did not have the right data and they ended up selling early and let go of a lot of profit. Both have happened to me, not on FINIXX, on other platforms. But I think that makes it all the more important that we have to be very, very careful about looking at customer centricity, customer engagement, making sure that we're doing the right thing for the users, right? That is one part, and I think as Ruchika, you mentioned, in your industry, there are two times I think when the user comes to you, or maybe three times, right? One is the first time they're taking a policy, maybe the second time it's a renewal. The third time is when they've experienced a loss and they're coming to do a claim, right? In any of these times, we cannot afford for the user to have a bad experience, right? So I think in the BFSI segment, across different use cases, there is actual loss that a user will go through. So we have to be all the more careful about what experience, do the users go through. So I think it's great that we're having to discuss this on our panel, and happy to go into it in more detail as more questions come in as to what's specific to us in stockbroking as well as in FINIXX. Yeah.
Very interesting. I think you mentioned when people come to you when they're in trouble, and secondly, how do you handle it? And when Samir spoke about it, they probably would maybe have an outreach when there's a loss for them, and how do you handle some of those very sensitive situations for customers? It becomes very important. Ruchika, maybe the next question for you, with this AI and automation, that's probably transforming how insurers connect with customers. And there's this, I think, a given need for you to be sensitive, be transparent, and also be compliant with it. How do you then look at personalizing, your customer experiences? If you could share some thoughts on it.
Thank you so much, Ashok, for that question. So at Generali Central Insurance, we've been in a phase of digital transformation over the last few years, and AI is a tool which we use extensively. We have used AI for predictive analysis. We have used AI to provide the right advice to our customers. We have used it for personalization at scale. We have used it to provide strong customer service, and of course to ensure that we can accurately assess risks and prevent fraud as well. I'll give you some examples of how we have used AI in very different use cases, right? So one of the things that we realized is in the health insurance space, our customers were not very sure about what is the right sum insured for them, right? So insurance in terms of penetration, GI insurance is less than 1%, right? But what is even more important is even in that 1%, people are underinsured. They don't know what is the right insurance for them. And medical costs are very, very different. So for example, if you're going for a particular treatment in Nagpur versus a Mumbai, the same treatment is going to cost you different. So what we've done is that we've taken data from our customers, and using predictive analysis and AI, we recommend to them what is the right sum insured for them and their families. And that's done extremely well for us. And it's not about pushing a product, it's not saying, hey, buy my product. It's really about telling them, listen, this is what you need. This is where you are, which stage you are in life. The second use case of AI that we use extensively is in customer service. So, I was talking about putting the power in the hands of the customers, and we leverage WhatsApp very extensively with more than 500 million people on WhatsApp today. I truly believe that, that is one area that can be really leveraged for all things customer. And we have developed an AI-based chatbot. That chatbot is extremely functionally robust. You can do anything that you can, from a call center. You can purchase a policy, you can renew, you can get your health card, you can find your nearest garage, nearest hospital, etc., etc. But what we've also done is that we've ensured that it doesn't sound like a machine. So the amount of time that we spend on making it very functional, we spend the same amount of time in the tonality, infusing the right tonality that the chatbot would answer you. And I always joke that this is the first chatbot in history which has a sense of humor, because we want to make sure that it seems very conversational, right? And today we have more than 2 million of our customers who engage with us on that platform. And the third use case is where we've used AI to personalize at scale. For the general insurance industry, renewals are very, very important. Customer retention is very, very important. More important than even acquisition. And we infused storytelling and AI to personalize our renewal reminders. So we sent out videos rather than a simple reminder that goes out to you and say, hey, your policy needs to be renewed. We actually did an interesting video using a celebrity, using an interesting story, and we say, hey, Ashok, this is your policy, this is when it's going to be due for renewal, tell me if you need anything else. And you can actually click on the video itself and make your renewal payment, right? And so all three are powered by AI in very, very different ways, right? So this is just how we've used. But the one challenge and the one thing that we are very careful about, you spoke about transparency, right? That data security is extremely important, right? So along with leveraging data, I think managing data and ensuring data is secure is a very big responsibility, and that's something that we are constantly very cognizant of.
Great, thanks. Samir, next question to you. Your brand being the digital first wealth creation platform, and there's a lot of real-time behavior that you get exposed to on platform. How are you leveraging these behavior signals real time to be able to deliver an instant experience that most of the generations that are using a platform, whether they're Gen Z or millennials, while they're two distinct and very different breed of generation, how do you really look at personalizing at scale to deliver better digital experiences?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in our case, in addition to having, let's say, an age-based, I would say maybe cohort, right? So Gen Z, millennials, there are different groups. But in the stockbroking world, there are two very broad user segments that pretty much any stockbroking company will be looking at, which is my user an investor or is he a trader, right? Now what happens is in the trader world, everything that you mentioned, which is real-time data, fast-paced, personalization, all of that is paramount, because without that's in fact table stakes, right? So without that, no trader is going to come to your platform, right? So the way we look at traders and we understand, we have our insights based on a lot of interactions with the trader community. We've understood that they want access not just to real-time data, rich data, right? Go much multiple levels deeper than what maybe other platforms would give. but also the kind of tools that we would want to give, right? So there are a few product launches that will come out in the public domain very soon about what FINIXX is going to come out with. But the insight we had was that we need to empower our trader users with best-in-class tools that they would use to execute literally, like the trades they do where even seconds matter, right? So it also comes down to product strategy, business strategy, and then it kind of comes over onto the marketing world in terms of the communication that we want to show them, the kind of creatives that we want to show them. And you will notice this across the board wherever there is a stockbroker that has a trader as one of their main user segments. Their comms, in fact even their creative approach to what they do is very similar. And we may be doing something, we may have some experiments lined up, and once those happen and if they go well, I'll maybe post on LinkedIn. But, so those are things that we try to do. But in the investor community, data and I think the requirement of whether it's time sensitive, real time, etc. is not as much important, because typically an investor has a more long-term focus, right? So within this audience over here, there would be people that are primarily mutual fund, they invest in mutual funds, or they have SIPs, or they would invest in blue chips where they know this company is going to do very well over the next few years. So you buy and then you typically keep it unless there's a major event that changes the macros of that company, right? So for them, the real-time data is not as important, but yes, giving them contextual, factual information about how a particular sector is doing. So now defense, if it's going to be doing well, I cannot give any recommendation because I'm not a research analyst, but you get what I'm saying, right? So data does become very important. Where Gen Z and Millennial comes in, at least from our analysis, is that our communication channels, right? So what do we post on an Instagram versus what do we post on a YouTube? That becomes very different, because we've seen, and we've literally seen like drop-offs happening if we post something which was originally for YouTube on Instagram, because even the audience that are on both of these platforms, as far as the stockbroking segment is concerned, is very different. The traders are, you will find them a lot on YouTube. You will find them undergoing, learning, figuring out what the other master trader has gone, get some tips, go through classes. Whereas the Instagram is more the millennial and Gen Z focused. So for us, it's that balance, right? And we've, in fact, our numbers will show that on Instagram, when we tried doing more serious content, the engagement and everything went down, right? So we're using that, in hindsight, it looks like it is so obvious, right, that you will not post serious stuff on Instagram. But we wanted to try it because technically you have both audiences there, but I think the audiences come to it for a different reason. The trader audience would come to Instagram more for taking a break, getting some humorous stuff. But for them, when they're trying to learn, it's more humorous. So I think we look at it along these axes and these levers. Yeah.
That's a great example. Thanks for sharing that. Ruchika, next, while you did mention there's a lot of personalization that you do at Generali Central. Is there any feature or campaign that you're really proud of that leverage personalization and drove the business impact for you, if you want to talk about it?
Sure. Thank you for that question. I spoke about how we look at our product development strategy and how we look at consumer insights. Now, basis those consumer insights, we had launched a product last year. It was called DIY Health. The concept was simple. It was a modular health insurance, and the entire thought, this was meant for the younger audiences, and the entire thought was that when you buy health insurance today, you pay for every single feature in the insurance. But what if you don't need that feature? Why are you paying for it? So if you are, let's say, 25 years old, you don't require a maternity cover, right? Then why didn't pay for it? So we had created a product where you can, pretty much pick the features that you want. It's a very Amazon kind of experience. You pick the features that you want, you put it in a cart, and you get charged accordingly. Now, taking forward the entire concept of DIY, we wanted to engage our agents. So in the insurance industry, as you would know, agents are, the key distribution channel. And these are not tied agents, so they work with multiple companies. So it's your job really to engage them, to keep your brand top of mind, and to make sure that they are positioning your product properly. So what we did was that we created 2 films, one using Aparshapri Purana, one using Masaba, and these films were not put on television. Instead, they were created for our agents. And they were put up on a microsite. All the agent needed to do was to go onto the microsite, put his or her name and number and geography, and the film would actually be personalized to the agent. So it seemed that it was a personalized film that Apar Shakti was talking about a particular agent, and positioning and promoting the DIY health insurance product. Something like this had never been attempted in the insurance industry before, and more than 80% of our active agents actually went ahead and tried this. They were extremely excited about it, and today DIY as a product contributes to more than 15% of our top line. It exceeded all the targets that we had set out when we had initially launched, and we are an outlier in the industry in terms of getting younger audiences. This product was meant for younger audiences. Typically, insurance is bought, 35 to 45 years. Typically, when you're in that, you start thinking of lifestyle diseases, and therefore you get an insurance. But we are one of the very few organizations which has the highest segment of 25 to 35, thanks to propositions like this, and thanks to the personalization that we were able to do for our agents, which enabled them, engaged them, and helped create trust.
That's great. Okay, sorry, I'll ask this question to both of you, and maybe Samir can go in first. How do you measure, this customer centricity as the entire discipline that organizations do talk about it, whether in a CX form or customer centricity? How do you really measure it, and how do you track it and keep improving it?
Yeah, so I think in our case, and this is, I think, going back to the discussion that we were having outside, and completely agree with what Ruchika was saying. I'm just going to borrow one thing from what you were saying, which was, so NPS for sure, right, which is like, I think the gold standard for figuring out whether, you're doing well as an organization or not, right? So I think that remains, and I will let her talk more about it. But other than that, for us, in our case, the timelines in the stockbroking world are very different, right? I was just explaining, for traders, it's literally seconds, minutes, hours sometimes, but it's very, very kind of time sensitive. So I think one thing that we do look at is, do these users stay with us for a longer period, right? So user retention. And if you look at overall industry data, you will know that the user retention numbers in the stockbroking world are horrendous, right? Just go and see, and you will notice that the data that I had was, it's upwards of 70-80% users end up going dormant. The reasons for that are different at an industry level. These are not company-specific numbers. But at least, a few years back at the industry level, what was happening was that when a user ends up going in to a stockbroking app, without knowing what they have to do, they invest somewhere or trade somewhere, they end up making a loss. And that's obviously not a great user experience. Nobody wants to lose money, right? So for us, user retention becomes key, because that is one kind of catch-all metric that will tell you whether the quality of users you're bringing in, once they've traded, are they staying with you? Then that's a function of the user experience, right? Getting them to trade, which is your first trade percentage, we track that very closely, and our retention numbers. If you're able to get these two within certain kind of internal benchmarks that we have, I think we are on a good wicket. So we look at this, because then a lot of other metrics flow down from these.
Ruchika, if you want to share your thoughts too.
So thank you, Samir. So borrowing from what you said, yes, NPS is something which we are absolutely fanatical about in terms of measurement. We actually have a system which is called transactional NPS, whereby every single time a customer transacts with us, and transaction is defined not only as a purchase, but every time he or she approaches the organization. So at the time of onboarding, at the time of renewal, at the time of service, at the time of claims, at any point of time the person is in touch with us, we we measure the experience, and that allows us to keep making corrective measures. So for us, NPS is not just a number in itself, but it's really what we are learning from that number, right? And we are constantly looking to improve across each one of these transactions. The second thing that we use to measure customer experience is the number of customers on our digital platforms. So we are hybrid. Like I said, our main distribution channel is agents. But we are also seeing a lot of our customers now reaching out to us on our digital channels, and that is the move that we want to make, right? We want to move towards self-servicing, and today more than 80% of our customers, use our digital channel for something or the other. So that's something that we track on a quarterly basis. Also, customer retention. Like Samir was mentioning, customer retention is very, very critical for us, tying back to our renewal business strategy. And finally, also cross-sell. So for us, even looking at multi-holding customers, what percentage of our customers actually hold more than one product becomes a yardstick of how they have experienced us for that one particular product and whether they have chosen to invest in us for another one.
Okay, maybe if I had to ask for concluding thoughts from both of you, while we spoke greatly about how you guys are looking at consumer centricity at this point in time in your organization, how do you feel this will change, or what will be the game changer for brands looking to ace this customer engagement in 2026? Will it be omni-channel personalization? Will it be AI? Will it be human and artificial intelligence combination of hybrid? What are your bigger bets about what the next year will unfold for us in consumer centricity and engagement?
Yeah, I think across the board, personalization has been the holy grail that most brands have gone for, right? Which is, can I as a brand engage with Samir as a user, really understand what this guy likes, doesn't like,
who don't seem to want any stability, or who are living for the day, kal ka kya karna hai. You talk about the latest iPhone in the market, they want it, even if it is costing 1 lakh plus. They'll probably ask their dad to pay for it or something. So going forward, when these kids are going to enter the workforce, maybe mid-20s, late 20s or early 30s, would there be a challenge for a company like yours, that is selling insurance, which does not have any instant gratification? I mean, the real benefits, you don't want that benefit because, it comes, at least a life insurance, the benefit is when you're no more. So is that going to be like a huge challenge? Will the market shrink, or will your business still sustain at the same pace? That's my question.
Thank you so much. I didn't catch your name.
I'm Anand.
Anand?
Anand.
Anand. Hi Anand. Thank you so much for that question. And you are absolutely right. When it comes to Gen Zs and the younger generation, insurance is it's a big challenge for our industry, right? Because especially when it comes to some of the products that we sell, which is health insurance, people believe mera gym mera insurance hai. मैं सुबह green smoothie पीता हूँ, वो मेरा insurance है, right? Why do I need this product? But at the end of the day, I think it is really about appealing to the segment. I mean, 65% of India is below 35 years of age, right? So at the end of the day, it's a very big demographic. And the challenge is always, how do we make ourselves relevant as a category to this consumer, like you've articulated. So what we've done is that, and I think a lot of people in the industry are also doing this, to be able to enable, category relevance. One is look at the proposition at the end of the day, right? If it's the same thing is sold in the same manner, at the end of the day, it is not going to cut ice. And one of the examples that I gave is what we did for the modular health insurance. The reason we developed that was for the younger generation, because the insight that we got is that they do not want to pay for stuff that they don't need, right? They will pay for an iPhone, but they will not pay for insurance because kya pata mujhe kyun chahiye ye, right? But how do you kind of make sure that you are somewhat relevant to them, and therefore the proposition that we created. Secondly is, how do we approach, right? So talking about education around insurance, why is it important? What will happen if you don't have it? So the messaging that you give, right? So for example, for this product, one of the other ways that we communicated was that we created a music video, right? And that immediately connected with our audiences. The third piece is where do you reach out to them? So one is what you say to them. The third is where do you reach out to them? So Samir had also spoken about this, Instagram, for example. How do you lighten a conversation, which is something as heavy as insurance? How do you lighten that and make it relevant to that particular platform? That's the challenge that we are constantly facing and trying our best to do that. And I think somewhere this strategy has helped us because we do see younger audiences now in our fold, which never was the case, 5 years earlier. I hope I've been able to help address your question.
Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you so much for the answers. And most importantly, thank you so much for the session. Give them a big round of applause, please, everybody. Thank you so much.